Hello, sports fans. Larry Eater, Run Blog Run. It's Athletics Chat number 28. Boom, 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 boom. 4, 4. Okay, was it 4, 4? Okay, anyway. You guys know what I'm saying. Stuart, hello.
Hi.
And you're in Oxford, England, the intellectual capital of the world. I'm in Fort Atkinson, Wisconsin, where it's deer season. And yesterday, at the same time we saw our first deer strapped to the back of a truck this season, we saw our first Christmas tree on a car, too. So, it's and tomorrow we get snow. Just a wee bit, about 3 inches, but it'll.
Well, actually, we are quite worried about Christmas over here.
Really?
Because Father Christmas usually comes with 6 reindeer.
Yeah.
But we currently have restrictions. You cannot meet with more than 6 people. So Father Christmas and the 6 reindeer, that's 7, so they won't be able to come.
Stuart, you bring life to its essence, and I appreciate that with you, my friend. That could be difficult. Now, in the English tradition, are there reindeer and all that happy stuff too?
Oh yes, yeah. Except we're about to be told later this week what we can do at Christmas. Wow. How many people you can see, and but then 55,000 people have died. So I'm happy to accept any restrictions.
Yeah, we're a little ahead of you guys. We're getting on the 255,000 person dead, and it's just it breaks my heart, and I'm embarrassed. I just didn't think that. I didn't think Americans would have really that kind of a issue, but apparently they have, and half of my countrymen and women feel that it's some weird thing between a hoax and an excuse to get us to vaccinate. We have that anti-vax, and I understand people not wanting to get shots. I understand people curious about vaccinations, but I wonder if that would have happened during polio, what would have happened to us? How many dead people there have been? Absolutely. And I don't buy that. They're putting other things into the vaccines to mess us up. I don't know if you had the fluoride issue in your country. Over here, they would put fluoride in water. Some people think it's good. Some people think it's bad. Some people think it's a conspiracy. But we have conspiracies about everything over here. So, it's just the first one was Abraham Lincoln being shot, and who did it and who was involved. And God, there's, 5,000 Kennedy conspiracies, and I find them all fascinating. So I've digressed, but let's get on to the topics that be. What we're about, Athletics Chat, is we try to solve the weekly problems, or comment on the weekly problems in global athletics. And some of them aren't problems. Some are good things. What did I see? Is it Atto Bolden and Sonia Richards-Ross are going to virtually MC? Now, will they be in Monaco? Is that what you're thinking is going to happen? And then are they going to be wherever they're at?
I assumed that they would just be at home.
Yeah. Well, they'll have to drink the wine themselves and stuff. Those parties are kind of, I went to the Centenary in 2012, and I got to meet Irina Sawinska and all kinds of cool athletes. And I also, the highlight of the evening was afterwards watching Usain Bolt DJ at a club, which was really fun. So, I digressed again. But let's get to the European Athletics Indoor Championships, which will be held in Torun, Poland, we hope, in March of 2021. What's your take on that?
Well, I would love to be going, but I think it's unlikely that I will go because while good news on the vaccine, it probably won't have reached me by then. Poland is a real athletics country. They do things well, and they've got a lot of small cities that love hosting events. Like I went to Biskot last year for the European teams, and it's a small stadium, but they filled it. Local knowledgeable fans, and then they've got. I remember being on the World Indoor as you were in Sopot.
Yes, love that.
In Poland. Again, just another remote city. And then we've got, if it happens, the World Relays happening in Poland next year as well. I say if it's happened because I just wonder if the year is just going to be too crowded with a world indoor, a European indoor, leading into the Olympics and so on. But yeah, I mean, it will be well done. There'll be a good crowd there, and it'll be a good event, except for the question of whether, particularly an indoor event, which would be a bigger risk than an outdoor event, just whether athletes will risk getting COVID in an Olympic year, whether many visitors will go there for the same reason. So I think it'll be interesting to see how well it is. I mean, also, of course, there's the World Indoors in Nanjing. It is sort of a couple of weeks, but I really can't see many people from outside of China going to the World Indoors.
Yeah, I'm really curious about that. You know, Renaud Lavillenie put a note up on his Twitter and Instagram that he's hoping to compete in both the Europeans and the World Indoors. And more power to him in a regular year. You know, whether either one of them will be held, I do not for the life of me even understand why they didn't take Nanjing and put it off to a later one and then do something in Belgrade or somewhere else, you know. And sometimes my only beef with my friends in Monaco is sometimes their grip on reality is romantic. It's the issue that I have sometimes on where championships are put. Are we trying to give the sport, can we build the sport and promote the sport at the same time? And we've got to be very careful about that. A topic we will have for next week is I just got my news release and link to the World Athletics 2022 Outdoor Championships in Eugene, Oregon. And a quick look at the website. They've done a nice job. Some of the people involved are pretty big time, including the guy who I think took track and field to the digital world. His name is Keith Peters. And in 1995, he helped put together the Nike hospitality house in Gothenburg with just basic press releases and stories online. I think he used Mark Bloom. And I think it was better than many of the Olympic sites. And in fact, in 2020, or in 2000, I blown my eardrum out and I couldn't go to Sydney. I used the Nike site to keep track of everything. And Keith was involved with that too. So it's great to see him back doing some things. I still have a beef that we've waited this long to hear about Eugene, but they really look like they've done some work. And so you and I'll take a look at it. We can chat about it next week. Let's get back to just holding indoor meetings. Are you seeing anything on British indoor meetings for the upcoming season?
There is only going to be the Indoor British Championships. There's not going to be a Grand Prix next year.
Wow. How do you
Although
think...
Interesting, sorry, go on.
How do you think fans will be about this?
Well, the assumption was that fans would not be allowed to go.
Okay.
Although interestingly, today our government has announced that the way we're dealing with COVID is we've got tier 1, 2, and 3. And depending on what level of tier you're in, as from next month, you will be allowed between 1,000 and 4,000 spectators at sports events. But even though we are the United Kingdom, it is more complicated than that because Scotland and Wales have different rules.
Yeah.
And But I think that if there had been an indoor event, it would have been in Birmingham this year because it alternates Glasgow Birmingham. And so now that there's going to be spectators, it would have been possible to have done it. I mean, the attitude of British athletics, and I accept this, is that financially they couldn't do an indoor event without spectators, because it is the spectators buying the tickets who actually finance the event to a significant degree. So there's not going to be one this year. Whether Joe Coates, the new CEO, is as committed to events as the previous regime, I think that's a real question. I don't want to prejudge her because she's only just getting started and starting in the middle of a pandemic. But I'm sad that if this is the end of the indoor Grand Prix in Britain, I would be sad. But we'll have to see what happens next year when the world is back to normal. Whether it was simply they couldn't have it this year or whether it wasn't a priority for them.
Okay. Let's stay on British athletics for a moment. Last week, you put a note together for me that I posted about Mark Monroe. And in there, you talked about Cherry Alexander leaving. Cherry, for people who didn't know, was involved in the day-to-day management of London 2017. She'd worked for Fast Track Agency and was helping with the meets that they had done for a long, long time. And now she's left, and it sounds like that most of the people in meet management are being let go or freelance. And then on top of that, the thing that affects you and me the most is the British Athletics Media Group, which I just did a quick podcast about, and I didn't name names in terms of the staff because I don't want them getting in trouble. But they were all fantastic for us. And, you know, I've tried to explain to people that they set the standard. Not only did we get notes on the meet and everything in hard copy, the way they did the interviews for us, we always had good interviews. Within probably 7 minutes, in the worst case, we had flash quotes. We would have results before you and I would get to 2 paragraphs into our stories. And we had pretty good seats, and we actually had food, you know, and tea. Their social media was very, very good. And in fact, a lot of times in the early years, they got coverage and publicity when the events were mediocre. And I'm really curious to think what they're thinking, because I don't understand what do they want to become if they're not going to do, or if they're going to lessen their involvement with events, or they're going to lessen their involvement with media. Do they expect all that stuff just to happen, and that they're going to work on? Or, I mean, are they modeling themselves after USATF, which, you know, barely puts out a press release unless, I mean, since the pandemic, it's just been strange. You know, they did a Zoom interview about a couple days after, the Wednesday after London, and we got to see the Americans, which was great. And it was so well done, and I really appreciated it. And then I got to thinking, why weren't they doing one of these things every week, you know, to give us something to write about in the States? And I'm wondering if Joe Coates has looked around the world and said, well, no one else is doing it. Why should we stay superb? This saves me $1 million, you know? I don't know. And I'm frustrated. Your comments, your thoughts.
I'm trying at this stage to say there were issues with the management of British athletics. Joe has come in.
Yeah.
She's made a number of decisions that I think were quite surprising, but I'm trying to, what's the phrase, keep my powder dry and just say, okay, you've made these decisions, let's see how they look in a year or two. I am quite mystified. I mean, because she seemed to say in a response to the British Athletics Writers Association that the normal service would be provided. But how you can provide the same service that you just talked about with a team of one rather than a team of five, if I've got the numbers right. But again, you see, this has not been officially announced. I only know that certain people are leaving because they told me that they're leaving. Whether they are going to bring in freelance people just to do events, I don't know. And I mean, certainly one or two people have said to me that they fear that what the pandemic will do to the people, a lot of people who are employed by the sport, is that they will lose that job and will be working on an ad hoc freelance event by event basis.
Yeah.
And I think I will wait and judge the British athletics media performance by what happens at the indoor national championships, the outdoor national championships, and the anniversary games.
Sure.
But again, I mean, the anniversary games, we understand, is now going to be a midweek, one evening event, not the weekend, 2-day event.
What is that about?
I mean, nothing has been said officially,
Yeah.
so it's all speculation. I mean, I have spoken to a lot of athletes in the last couple of months because I've been doing this little series on asking people to reflect on their year and so on. And I've asked everyone how important the anniversary games was. And athlete after athlete has just said how important it's been. Like Jake Whiteman said, you know, first time I ran in the anniversary games in the Emsley Car Mile, I was still a junior and I came last in the race. But imagine what that meant to me as a teenage athlete, being allowed to run with the world's best. It said to me that British athletics really believed in me and wanted to encourage me. Lavia Nielsen's comment was simply, well, I did my PR there. What else do you want to know about it? And the way they used to have for the 100 meters race, they used to have 2 prelims.
Yeah.
And a final, which meant that you got a chance to put in perhaps 4 British athletes who wouldn't have made an 8-man final.
Yeah.
Automatically, but they got a chance. And I mean, I remember years ago, Asha Phillip talking to me about being in the next lane to Shelley Ann Fraser-Price.
Yeah.
And being scared witless, but thinking, you know, I must have made it if I'm actually in the same race as Shelley Ann. So I think that what the anniversary games did was to give a lot of British athletes a chance to be in races with the best in the world. And if you're doing this on a Tuesday evening, you're going to have less than half the number of events you can have if you're doing it on a Friday night and a Saturday afternoon.
The 2-day anniversary games, you know, for such a long time, the Diamond League, everything was one day, and then London started. You know, Ian Stewart and his crew, they had 2 days, and they were glorious days. And then the Prefontaine had to add a day. You know, I still go back to thinking about how British athletics in the previous administration did the proverbial screwing of the pooch with putting the athletic cup within a couple weeks or a week of the anniversary games. And it's like, why do you kill golden horses? And I don't understand that. What you've done over 2 decades is built this incredible indoor series and outdoor series that not only showcased the best in the UK, but also the best in the world. And like you said, chances for athletes to develop. It's one of those stories that we'll write about why British athletics came back after 2002 and 2003, but where does it go now?
But I mean, if you think the 2012 Olympics, the 2017 World Championships, the 2018 World Indoor, the 2019 European Indoor, and 2022 Commonwealth Games. Haley Doyle said to me, some athletes go through their career without ever competing at home in a championship.
Yeah,
I've done about 5 of them, but I wonder in the next 10 years whether we will see anything like that happening, or whether hosting events just won't be a priority anymore.
Well, if they continue going down this rabbit hole, you're going to see sponsorships dry up. You're going to see BBC say, we're going to put on American bass fishing instead. And that's the stuff that worries me, because when one sport makes a mistake, there's another sport to come in, even in the UK, and God, you guys put on all these US TV shows and they go to pubs, and British kids are watching American football. I don't know why, but they are. And so it's interesting, and what's ironic was today I got this press release about World Athletics Outdoors in 2022 with the top person being Niels de Vos. And Niels, I met in the UK, and there was things that I thought he did a pretty good job on. I thought he had a few errors in judgment. I'm not suggesting in any way that it benefited him, but he had a certain way he thought things needed to be done. Some of them worked, some of them did not. The Athletic Cup, I don't believe did. The dumping of Fast Track, I don't believe did. And now we're seeing that shadow. And Joe Coates has got to make these decisions. She can't do it in a vacuum, as you know, and as we've discussed before. What she has to do is look at, here's my financial situation. Here's where it's going to be in 3 years. Who can I keep? And I've sat in enough bars with managers and meat directors saying how the federations need to get out of putting meets on, but who's going to do it without the federation help? Because the meets are so damn expensive. And unless you've got a dynamic sports marketing group and you've got a sponsor who's got, $300 million to put on 12 dynamic meets and buy the TV, you're going to be in trouble. And we're going to see where the sport goes. It's a global thing too. We've been talking about Tokyo 2021. You just went to the virtual press conference last week. Any more thoughts on that?
Well, I feel more encouraged that I will be in Tokyo now than I did, because of the commitment to hold the Olympics, and then the news that in the last week 3 vaccines have come out with good results.
Yes.
And certainly our government is saying after Easter we're hoping for some normality.
I'm trying to figure out what things. Dr. Fauci, the American spokesperson, who is rather problematic, because as many people love him as hate him, and it's not his fault. It's just that science in the U.S. now is all put into question. But we see these vaccines. We understand they're going to start being distributed in December in the U.S. and around the world. And so that could be pretty exciting. So that hopefully by June, things could be in a good place. But it's going to be really close about, are we going to be able to have an Olympics? And even if we have an Olympics, it's going to be rather, one, austere, but also not in the celebratory nature of events that you and I have been to.
No, it's going to be different. It's going to be different. I think that is. You see, when I think about the events that I didn't go to this year, at one level I feel sad, but at another level, I think as an experience, they would not have been anything like as enjoyable. I mean, athletes I spoke to, like Lavia Nielsen talked to me about having a single room at every event, going down to the dining room, sitting on your own, or even some athletes coming in just taking their foot up to the room. Laura Muir said to me, I really didn't talk to any athletes at all this year.
Wow.
So I think a lot of the normal interaction that makes events fun was not happening this year.
Yeah.
I don't know of any event which did a mixed zone where we could have talked to athletes. And again, already, I know that, I mean, you live for press conferences. Tokyo is talking about doing all its press conferences virtual as one possibility.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. One of the things that I've kind of found my niche in is my son and I and Mike Deering going to these medal things, because we get to ask real questions, and the athletes get tired of being asked about drug crap. And so when we ask a question about, how they threw the hammer or the pole vault, they really appreciate it. And, I really think that those medal pressers are to celebrate the athletes who medaled,
Absolutely.
The mixed zone, if I want to ask stuff about doping and anything else that's out of there's no question off the mark, and I understand that, and I understand people having to do their jobs, but I also think that there's a time too when we need to allow the athletes who have put up with so much shit over long careers to get a little celebration in, and it's fun, and those unguarded moments. I mean, I just recall when you and I and Cathal Dennehy were in 2015, I believe, with Mo in Birmingham. And I asked a question, and it was the first of 26 questions that Mo had that day. And he looked at me and he said, "You're asking about track?" And I asked him about, how his 3000s fit into, preparing for a 10. And then Cathal followed up with a question about the 5,000. And Mo goes, "What is this? Is this a presser for track and field?" And then I believe you asked something, and he was genuinely shocked, and it was just, I think that without patting us on the back, one of the things that I think that you and I remember better than many is that at the end of the day, the fans of athletics can read about doping if they want every day on papers and websites around the world. What they can't get is those unguarded moments, those thoughtful moments, those genuine moments with athletes. And that's what I'm always looking for. I just interviewed Molly Huddle today, the American, and Molly is a lot of fun. She is funny and she is witty. And I've known her since 2009, 2010 probably. And I remember in 2011 in Korea with her agent, Ray Flynn, we were at a little Korean barbecue, and she felt comfortable enough to kind of get me to laugh a little bit about something. And it was funny. And I had never seen her kind of off her, sorry, people somehow like to call me for some reason. It was just kind of seeing her kind of fun to see her off guard. And it helps you remember, as you do, like you talk to Laura and Gemma Reiki, and you know, one of the ones I really like is Holly Bradshaw. The British. I just think she's so genuine, and I really respect Mizuno, who really doesn't do much in track and field anymore. They have a long tradition, but they sponsor her in the UK because why? She's a woman athlete, and there are a lot of women who identify with her because we watch a lot of British TV. I'm right now watching Call the Midwife, which my girlfriend had watched most of it, and I'd never seen it, and I'm really enjoying it. And one of the things that my girlfriend and I agree on is that British TV and European TV use people that look like normal humans. You know, American TV is all about perfect teeth and models and stuff, and they're not real. And Holly, what Holly Bradshaw does too is that she's a pretty muscular athlete. She's not built like a sprinter or a tiny distance runner. And I think a lot of women identify with her, and she's really honest about stuff, which I think is really, really good. And I just think that's important. You know, it's important in covering women's athletics too, which a lot of times the championships, Stuart, you know, a lot of times the women's races, the women's events are so much more entertaining and because they actually put it on the line. What do you think about the Commonwealth Games? What are you hearing? Are things pretty well on target for it?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, they had to do some budget cuts. They originally were going to build a village. And at the end, that was going to be partly funded by the city council, who would then have had some properties once the games were over. But in the end, they just thought their budgets were too tight, and since there were several universities with university residences, that they could actually fit everyone in there. The disadvantage of that is, of course, you don't have everyone in the same place.
Sure.
But yeah, I mean, I certainly, the pictures continue to appear of the Alexander Stadium, which is now going to have seats where there used to be grass around the.
Wow, that'll be interesting to see.
The final curve, because they put that in for more spectators for the Commonwealth Games, and of course that will stay. Some cynical people, and you know, you and I don't have an ounce of it within us. Some cynical people might say, well, if you've just decided you're not going to have the Birmingham Diamond League, why do you need a stadium with extra seats? But we're not the kind of people who'd ask that question.
No. I love that meet in Birmingham. I think that seeing events in Birmingham, Manchester, and London give me a better view of the sport, and you know, then going up to Newcastle and enjoying that lovely event. Do you think that the night of 10,000 PBs, which is the one that the Highgate Harriers put on, which has always been a fun event, have you heard anything about that for this next year?
No, that's an event I've actually never been to. I don't know. I mean, you don't get a lot of spectators at that because it's not a stadium that holds a lot. So I think that's probably pretty much funded by television. So if TV wants to take that, I think that may well continue. But I don't know. You see, the official answer to any question at the moment from British Athletics is that we haven't released the schedule yet. So anything you're saying is speculation.
One of the things they did release the schedule on was an AW. Our friend Jason Henderson put a piece up about the British Championship Marathon and Olympic Trials. Will be Tom Bedford and his crew will be hosting that at where they do the Richmond Distance Festival, I believe. I think it's what you guys call Kew Gardens.
Yes.
What do you know about that? Have you heard much about that yet?
No, just what I read. I mean, Kew Gardens is the leading horticultural gardens in the country.
Okay.
So, I mean, it's a major tourist spot that people go either just to walk in beautiful surroundings or to see the best collection of exotic plants in the country.
Oh, cool.
But that doesn't necessarily help if you're just trying to run around it.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a loop. I know we've got a interview with Tom Bedford that'll be posting tonight, Monday night, and so we'll be putting some clips up on that tomorrow. We did that with Tom a couple of weeks ago. He's always a rather colorful character. Have you ever interviewed Nick Rose?
No.
Okay, I was going through all my interviews. He's a nice guy, and one of my heroes from when I was a young guy, because he went to school over here at Western Kentucky with Ray Flynn and Dave Long and a whole crowd. But I finally got to meet Nick in 2016 with Dave Bedford. And of course, they both had beers in their hands in the beer tent at the Highgate 10,000. And I found the little audio, so I posted that the other day. So you're doing a piece this week on Laura Muir, and then who else are you writing about this week? Stuart, are you there?
Yes, I am. I'm just trying to remember because I sent it to you this morning.
Okay, all right. I saw Laura. We'll have another piece up too, so I'll make sure we get those.
Yeah, Abby Irzul. Lovely story of somebody who became the British #1 long jumper, but somebody who retired 3 years ago when her body just said to her, "I ain't jumping anymore. I am broken."
Wow.
But then she recovered and just felt that she had a gift for long jumping, and she didn't want to. She didn't want to stop. So she got her body back in order. Started jumping again. Reached the final of the World Championships in Doha. She competed as many times as she could this year, even though she hadn't really been able to prepare because her facility was closed for most of the year. And a very honest interviewee. Just I asked her, how would you describe your season? And she said, underwhelming.
Well, that's pretty honest.
Yeah, so she's an interesting character, and you know, when she decides to come back, and you've got Shara Proctor and Lorraine Ugin, who are both 7-meter jumpers, and Jasmine Sawyers, you can instantly say, well, you may not even make a championship. But actually, not only did she win the British Championship last year, she went to Doha and finished the top Brit. But when I said that to her, she just dismissed it and said, no, I didn't do well enough.
Wow.
I should have gone further.
Well, that's the way athletes look at each other. Stuart, you've survived 39 and a half minutes with me this week, my friend. Thank you again.
Right.
On Thursday, I'll be celebrating the American holiday of Thanksgiving, socially isolated, and we're going to do a Zoom thing with my family all over the country the night before and have a little cocktail hour. So I'll be thinking about you, my friend. And
thank you.
Thank you very much again for a wonderful week from the intellectual capital of the world, Oxford, England. This is Larry Eater with Stuart Weir. This is Athletics Chat number 28. See, Mike, I got it right. Signing off. If you like RunBlogRun, like us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. And if you love us, subscribe on YouTube. Thank you, Stuart.
Thank you. Good night.
Hey, sports fans, Larry Eater, RunBlogRun. It's Athletics Chat number 28. See, 10, 15, 20, 25, and 3, 28. Last week, I think I called it 37. But anyway, welcome to the epilogue or a monologue. As my girlfriend says, yeah, Larry, it's a monologue. And I think she's right. Just don't want to hear, just keep that between you and me. Anyhow, Stuart Weir, our European correspondent who's based in Oxford, England, the intellectual capital of the world, and I, based in Port Atkinson, Wisconsin. We're between Madison, which is Berkeley with snow, and Milwaukee, which is one of my favorite fun cities, especially the Third Ward. And we're going to have our first real snow the next 24 hours. So I'm kind of getting excited about that. I really into that whole winter wonderland and Christmas, and started singing Christmas songs, a few weeks ago. So yesterday saw someone driving with a Christmas tree and also with a recently shot deer, because it's deer season, on the back of their truck too. So it's those little things of the holiday season. And Stuart and I solved many problems in athletics today. Among them, European Indoor Championships in Torun, Poland. I've been to Torun for a World Indoor meeting in 2019. Loved it. Drove through Bydgoszcz. My comment on Poland, I love Polish food. I love the Polish people. I love staying there. I love how inexpensive it is. I've been to Sopot, been to a few other events there. I think they have a rather creative view of driving on 2-lane roads and highways, which was a little nerve-wracking, but besides that, we can deal with it. People are good, beer's good, vodka's good, water's good. Stayed in a cool little hotel called the Nicholas in Torun. And I'm hoping to be there. I'm just, it's about 40%, I believe, happening, but who knows? I think European athletics will find a way to make it work. I'm just not sure as an American if I'm going to be allowed to get there next year. I'm definitely sure that Nanjing, without the, which is a week later, the World Indoor Championships, and I don't understand why they're even holding it in China right now, not because there's anything wrong with China, just because it's going to be difficult to get vaccines and get people traveling. Stuart is much more positive about Tokyo happening. We do think will be rather austere, but we think it's time for an Olympics if it can happen and can be done safely. We've got 3 different wonderful pharmaceutical companies that are putting together vaccines right now. And if people actually take it, we might have some luck in controlling this out of control pandemic, which is real. And if you say it's not real, you just flunked your science class or didn't pay attention. There's nothing wrong with science, nothing wrong with math, nothing wrong with people who have brains and actually use them, because we have problems in this world which need to be solved, and politics should not be involved. Anywho's, on the right or the left, I really don't care. I just think that right now, free speech is being bombarded, and a lot of things that aren't real are being discussed and considered happening. Elvis is not alive. Jim Morrison is not alive. And if you start with those, which about 30% of Americans believe Elvis is still alive, and about 35% believe that angels are walking around, and I'll let people discuss that among themselves. The whole Elvis and Jim Morrison thing, can we at least agree that that's not happening? But in England, you've got close to 52,000 Brits who have passed away from the pandemic, and in the U.S., it's about 254,000 as of today. They're real. They need to be looked at and respected, and wash your hands and wear a mask. And if you're not wearing a mask, and you're in the U.S., I don't even consider you an American. How do you do that? It's not a freedom of speech issue. It's not attacking your masculinity. You're caring for other people. And Americans, at the end of the day, at least the America that I've been raised in, care for other people. That's one of the things we are known for, is caring for other people. That's the way everybody in the world should be, people who need people. I'm not going to start singing it, I promise, okay? But anyway, so Stuart and I talked about Torun. We'd love to see it happen. It's all based on what's going to happen over the winter. The week after Torun is Nanjing World Indoor Champs. That's going to be a challenge. And Stuart wants to know if there's athletes outside of China that are going to actually go. And that's most unfortunate, because I love China. I love seeing events there. And I do not know why people decide to continue to call me, not knowing that, I actually have things. I actually do answer calls, and that's why voicemail is there. But when you send 5 messages, in a several hour period. I guess you need someone to respond to you. Anyway, Nanjing, will it happen? I think it'll happen. I just don't know if any athletes outside of China will be there. The Olympics, I think the Olympics is going to happen. It's going to be austere. I think that with these vaccines, if they continue to go well, we'll see people that'll be able to go. Most of the 10,000 athletes, some of the 10,000 media, because people want to watch it. I don't think there's going to be many fans. Marathons, you'll see all the marathons next fall. I don't think you'll see much this spring. And I think this winter is going to get a little scary. So please, wash your hands, wear a mask, take vitamin C, exercise. On Thanksgiving in the U.S., the Zoom people have said, hey, no limit on the time. So get on the Zoom and talk to your family and stay safe, you know. You can make turkey soup, you can make turkey salads, you can make turkey sandwiches, you can make turkey omelets. I love turkey omelets. And you can just eat pieces of turkey with a little bit of salt and maybe some real mayonnaise, you know. My girlfriend makes actual mayonnaise, which is kind of fun. And it's great on a sandwich. So, you know, you'll just have more turkey for yourself. You know, you don't have to. I guess right now they're saying that there's a real run on turkeys that are like 10 to 12 pounds. And most people, I hope, have gotten their turkeys already. I do remember one year when I waited till the day before to buy a turkey and it was frozen. I went to the market and asked the gentleman, how do I thaw this out? And he just looked at me and said, with the blowtorch. And as I started panicking, he laughed and he went into his back room and he had several thawed out turkeys for people like me who would put it off to the last minute. But that doesn't always happen. So, you know, be prepared, as the Tom Lehrer song says. So we've talked about Euro in Torun. We've talked about Nanjing. We've talked about the Olympics. We've talked about possible marathons in the fall. I'm concerned about British athletics, what they're doing with their media people, how few meets look like they're going to happen. I'm wondering if British athletics is getting out of the meat business completely and then getting out of the PR business and just kind of having a laissez-faire approach and expecting it all to be done by other people, which means that British athletes are the ones who are going to be screwed. There'll be less chances for them to compete. There'll be less chances for people to know their story. There'll be less chances of them to tie in with sponsors. And there'll be less reasons for sponsors to say, why am I going to sponsor British athletes? But sometimes it happens in the U.S. too. Now, a nice ray of hope. I just got the link for World Athletics Outdoors 2022. A very, very nicely done website. Great content. I believe a dear friend, Keith Peters, who used to be at Nike, he was the communications deity there for a long time and sports marketing as well. But he's the guy that in 1995 really took the digital viewing of track meets to a whole new world. Reebok was the global sponsor at the time, and Nike came in Gothenburg and took it over. And what they did was they had Steve Miller doing interviews each day. Steve was pretty good. He has the gift of gab and liked to talk to athletes. And it's where I interviewed Vanessa Niangabo, who's the Olympic and world champion and now is a Nike manager in Italy. And Vanessa at the time told me some fascinating stories, but I've talked about that before. But the key is this. What Keith did was he worked with Mark Bloom, an amazing writer, one of the guys that I continue to worship. And they did great bios and great behind-the-scenes stories on athletes. They made these athletes alive. And they actually did stuff better in 1995 than the 1996 Olympic site, which I thought was shit. But there was great information. I just had to dig for it a lot more. And then in 2000 in Sydney, when I blew my eardrum out and couldn't get on a plane to get there, I followed the Nike site, and that's how I was able to do many of my stories. And I always bemoan the fact that Keith got out of it after that, you know, and now that he's back, I'm very, very grateful and happy because he gets it. There's few people that get how giving out good, thoughtful, accurate information, well presented, well edited, and how it is important. It's more important in this day after 4 years of someone in our government making people question everything. Apparently, 50% of Americans right now question every bit of news they get. They're questioning the election and those things. That's just sad, you know? So to have something on a day when we're still trying to figure out our presidential election, well, we know who it is, but, it's nice to see a ray of hope from Eugene, Oregon, the track capital of Lane County. I'm looking forward to seeing the new stadium. Phil Knight, thank you for putting all those dollars in there and having a sense of humor. I am looking forward to getting a veggie burrito in Eugene. I'm looking forward to ordering a beverage at one of the local haunts. And if I'm lucky again, I'll stay in the dorm at U of O and get one of those veggie shakes in the morning, and be able to walk around the stadium. Anyway, it should be a lot of fun. 2022. Eugene is always a blast. I think tomorrow, or in 2 days, I get to interview Tom Jordan, the man who's run and managed the. I'm sorry, Mike, for putting a time in. I'll be talking to Tom Jordan soon, and so you guys will figure out where this all fits. Anyway, Stuart Weir was wonderful and patient with me as always. We covered many topics today. We solved many of the world's problems, but most of all, we wanted to wish everybody in the U.S. a very happy and safe Thanksgiving. Zoom your family and friends. Stay safe, please, please. It doesn't matter what political world you're in. Caring for other humans is a U.S. trait, and it doesn't matter if you're Republican, Democrat, Whig, commie, socialist, whiz-bang party, or, the party of what's happening now. It's football. You just have the church of what's happening now. I think I'm going to start the party of what's happening now. But I think that wash your hands, wear a mask, exercise, hydrate, have a good wine, have a nice cocktail, enjoy your extra turkey. I've given you many ideas, and salads, turkey omelets, turkey sandwiches, just pieces of turkey, and watching Netflix. I'm watching Call the Midwife, and let's see what else. The original Wallander. I've watched the second version of Wallander and the Kenneth version, a Branagh version. Those are two up. But great stuff on Netflix, great stuff on Prime. My favorite on Prime right now is Soviet Storm. It was done in 2010, and it's about the Great Patriotic War. I'm a big Russian history fan, so, get over it. But anyway, there's things to watch where you can stay safe. Exercise. Tell your family you love them. Text them, tweet them, all that kind of stuff. And, listen to someone who has different beliefs from you, whether they be religious or political, and try to learn. That's what we're missing right now is humanity, okay? And I hope that lesson starts to come across. And one of the things that athletics does teach is humanity. It's really fun. I interviewed Molly Huddle today, and I gave Molly 6 names of athletes which is one of the things I do, thanks to Mike Deering. And I asked her to give me 3 to 5 words about each athlete, and she was wonderful about them. But she said something really cool. She goes, we know these people as friends and outside of running, then we know them in running and racing. And I think that's really neat. One of the cool things about athletics is you have friends from life of people you've competed with and you run with. And it's the miles of trials and trials of miles, as the great John Parker wrote in Once a Runner, one of my favorite books. And if you have not read that book, I do not know why you haven't read it. Go get it on Amazon. That one and Tom Jordan's book, Pre, is really good. And The Loneliness of the Long Distance Runner by Alan Sillitoe, a great piece of English literature. Anyway, yes, Michael, I've digressed, and I'm probably at 9,000 minutes now. So I'm going to shut up. This is the epilogue for Athletics Chat 28. We were chatting with Stuart Weir in the intellectual capital of the world, Oxford. And have a happy Thanksgiving. And if you don't have a happy Thanksgiving, just have a happy week wherever you're at. Stay safe. And thank you for watching my diatribes. If you like our stuff, like us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. If you love us, subscribe on the YouTube. And Mike Deering, thank you again for trying to manage me for another day. And it may require another beverage. But signing off. Have a great evening.